Hi guys, welcome to BlendCraft-Week 2. We're going to continue on. Last week we were doing the interface and we only got through some of it. So we're going to continue on from where we left off last time. Just on my screen here you can ignore this little eyeball thingy. That's just my little pen for marking out the screen. So last week we talked about the info editor. There's 5 default editors in Blender, so we talked about 3 of them. The info editor up here across the top, then the outliner going clockwise, the outliner here for selecting our objects and doing a few basic operations. Underneath that we have the properties editor. This is where we can find a lot of everything that is in the scene and modifications we can make to objects and transformations. We can add effects and physics and all that kind of shenanigans. So the next window we're going to talk about down here is the timeline editor. This is a way to see where we are in time with regards to our animation. At the moment we don't have any animation in here, so I might just put in a little bit, but the main window we see here has got all these ticks and numbers below. So at the moment we see this little green bar over at 0. This little green bar is called the time slider, and it's like where we are in time. So at the moment it's on 0. If I right click anywhere inside this bar, the time slider will jump to that spot, and if we just click and drag we can slide it around, hence the name time slider. So I'll just drop that back to 0, and below down here you'll see in the middle we've got some controls. We can play forward, play backwards, skip forward, but to demonstrate this property I'll put in a little bit of animation. So I'm just going to grab this cube, just kind of put it over here. I will be doing a class on animation, so for now it's just a demonstration. So with our cube here, I'm going to slide this over to 0. That's where we're going to put in our first keyframe or marker. So with that there, time at 0, I'll press I and just drop in a keyframe. A keyframe is basically a recording of a value at a given point in time, and we'll talk more about that in further class. So I just dropped a keyframe here, and you'll see down here on the time slider, if I just move this aside, you see there's a little yellow tick there. That means that there's a keyframe recorded for the selected object. If I select this, you'll see it goes away. If I select the camera or the light, back to the cube, and you see a little tick there. So that is saying at frame 0 the cube is right here. So now what I'm going to do is slide the time slider to the next point in time that I want to record a value. So I'll just choose frame 100 here, it doesn't really matter, and with the frame in place I will slide the object to where I want it to be at that time, and again I'll press I and just throw in a location keyframe, and again you'll see a little tick there. So we just told Blender at frame 0 the box is going to be here, frame 100 it's going to be here. So if we slide back we should see a little bit of animation in between. So now I can demonstrate these buttons a little better. If you press play forward it'll just play the animation through, and you'll see the time slider will play on straight past there until it gets to that the dark grayed area. The reason for that is just down here. This is our start and end of the range that we can see. So at the moment, since I only have 0 to 100 and then it plays off here and does nothing, I could change this to 100, and you'll see now it just plays the selected area. So while it's playing we can we have a little pause button, pause that, now it stops. We can also play it backwards, or we can jump to and from each keyframe that's in the animation. At the moment we've only got it's jumping from our keyframe here. We click and it jumps to the last one. So what I could do, just maybe around 50, just in between this, I'm just going to introduce another keyframe. So I moved the time slider to where I want the recording to be. Now I'll move the object up, throw in another location keyframe. This actually, I meant to switch on an add-on screencast. There we go. This is a little add-on that comes, I'm not sure if it comes with Blender, you can download it separately, but now you'll see down here in the bottom corner, if I click left, if I click right, or if I scroll the middle wheel, you'll see that, and you'll also see whatever buttons I press. So that might be a little bit helpful. So again, back to 0, yeah, I already done that keyframe, so it goes up, and then it hits there, and then it goes back to 100. So we have our range. That's kind of most of the controls we really need for now. We'll cover it more in depth in a later class. Again, you'll see, like all the other editors, this editor has a little button here for swapping it out for different ones, which we'll cover later. Again, we have the view, we can maximize this screen. I always use the shortcut Shift Spacebar, and that maximizes whatever window the cursor is over. So that's view. Markers, we can also add markers into our animation. So let's say we could just slide through and choose maybe so our object comes up and then it goes down nice and slowly, but let's say someone else had done this animation and they send it to us and we're reviewing it, so they could say, well, actually I want the object to be on the ground at frame 70, but it takes all this time. So we could come here to frame 70 and we could add a marker, and so now it's just a little marker to point something, if you want something to happen at a certain time or whatever. It's just an easy way to keep track of your scene. We can rename these as well. Control M. So while we're on a marker, if we hit Control M, we'll get a little dialog popping up. So now we could say land on ground. So that's just a handy way to mark out. So now we can send this back to someone or whatever, and we can go, right, so now at this point we want the box to be on the ground. So we would go to this point 70, and so we've moved our time slider to where we want it to be in time. Then we just slide our object to the new location, press I, drop in a keyframe there. Now you see we have a little yellow tick, and our object lands on the ground there. We also have over here a little red button. This is a record button. This is for something called auto keyframing. So you'll see the way I had to choose where I had to put my object into place and choose the frame and all that. So what I'll do is just reset this scene again and do this all with auto keyframing. So down here, automatic keyframe insertion for objects and bones. So this way we won't actually have to press I to bring up our keyframe menu. We can just automatically do it. So I'm just going to switch on record. So at frame 0, move my object here. At frame 100, move it here. At frame 50, move it up. And hopefully, if I've done that right, we should have the exact same information, the same animation kind of put down. Just one thing to keep a note is to not forget that it's switched on, because you could come in later and do some things. Maybe you actually want this entire box to just be moved over a bit. So you'll go, yeah, I actually want this here, and then you'll realize you're starting to mess up your animation. So maybe you'll try and put it back, but now you're adding loads of new keys and stuff. So it's just a handy way to throw down some keyframes automatically. The time slider is mainly just for viewing your keyframes and stuff, just keeping track of where they are, and it's more of a visual window. To do editing on the actual keyframes, we use a completely different editor called the Graph Editor, which we'll get into in a later class. Also we can change the start and end frame. You'll also see this little this little bar here goes all the way across the entire editor there. This is like we can control the range that we can see here. So if you grab the little dark patch at each end of it, you can actually start sliding the menu around, and so you can zoom into a certain portion, something like that. You can also navigate this window much like the 3D view, which we'll be getting into in a minute. So you can scroll your mouse wheel and you'll start to zoom in, and you can click down on your middle mouse wheel and slide it around. I also see that my screencast keys aren't popping up there. Why is that? Why wonders? Screencast keys are on. Oh, because I reset the scene. Whoops. So yeah, zooming in, sliding around, and that kind of is all we need to worry about with the time slider for now, the time editor.